For to say, hey guys, it's Klaus. Welcome back to another episode. And guess what? I've just learned that WarGaming is going to do something about the old tanks that get preferential matchmaking. They finally have a solution that will fix the preferential matchmaking problem with the older tanks. And they're going to start it by making changes to the KV5 and the whole preferential matchmaking system. And I thought I would do a video here. I'm playing a frontline game, and I'm going to play nothing but preferential matchmaking tanks. Well, actually two of them, the KV5 and the IS6, and shoot nothing but regular ammo, no premium ammo, and talk about these changes that they're going to make. And I will give you my no bullshit analysis of what the changes are. Well, let's watch the game here for a bit. And for those of you who want to get right into the changes, skip ahead to the 3-minute and 50-second mark of this video, and you can get right to the changes. If you want to watch a little bit of gameplay, watch this, because I'm playing my KV5. And I've got 2 stripes on this thing, and I was at 91% percentile, working towards the 3rd stripe when they made the matchmaking changes, which basically screwed all the preferential matchmaking tanks, the KV5 and the IS6 in particular, 2 that I own. And what was the whole, for those of you who don't know, a lot of you do know this, but in the old days, tanks like the KV5 would come out. They had a policy in the old days that premium tanks could not be overpowered. This would not be a pay-to-win game. A new premium tank would have something special about it. In the KV5, it was the armor. Had really good armor. But it would not be overpowered. It was balanced by giving it a tier 6 gun, the same gun as in the T-150 tier 6 tank. And you would get, because of that preferential matchmaking, you would never see tier 10s in this tier 8 tank. You could see tier 9s occasionally, and you would see tier 8s, 7s, and 6s. And then you could struggle with your underwhelming gun, but you could charge forward and be the meat shield for your team with your great armor, especially if you were top tier. And it was fun to play, and it was very successful. WarGaming made money selling these things, and they were fun to play. And then they changed the matchmaker to this 3, 5, 7, and the new matchmaking system, and now you play your preferential matchmaking tank, and you basically are bottom tier. In the old days, what would have been called bottom tier, every time you have tier 9s and 8s in your game almost every time. And that's no fun, and no one plays them anymore, and no one buys them anymore. So playing the KV5, and look at what I'm doing here, a lot of good players, and I consider myself an okay KV5 player, you learn to turn and play your tank backwards, because even the rear armor is strong, so I'm bouncing shots off my ass, and I'm shooting my gun at these guys in their sides. I'm using the rock here to cover myself from the campers up on the hill, and I'm protecting my 2 big, huge weak spots, the R2-D2 units, in the front by doing this reverse angling. And a lot of KV5 drivers in the old days, you'd see them driving these things around backwards because you don't have weak spots other than the small target of your ass, which is not that weak in this thing. It was a blast to play, and it was a win-win. People had fun playing these, and WarGaming made money selling them. And since the matchmaking has changed, you almost never end up top tier in these things. You're always facing tier 9s and your counterpart tier 8s, new overpowered tier 8s like the Defender and the Scorpion and the blah blah blah. So these things suck. Well, let's go over the changes. It's 3 minutes and 50 seconds, just as promised, and WarGaming calls it perfecting preferential premiums. I'm going to read you what they released here and then give you my no bullshit analysis. So let's just read here. As we head into the summer, we keep addressing the huge to-do list and bumping up the most important topics to the top. Next in line is the preferential premium issue. The question has been up in the air for a while now, but before we jump headlong into it, here's some historical note. A little over a year ago, World of Tanks updated to 9.18, introducing important enhancements to the game's matchmaking. As opposed to its predecessor, the new version's functionality was based on several templates that regulated pre-battle team formation. Since then, the tool has gone through several changes until it reached a level of performance that met the expectations of both the community and the dev team. So now the game has proper team distribution, mismatches are rare, everybody's happy, right? I could make a whole video about the answer to that question. Not really, they continue. The new approach benefited everyone apart from preferential premium vehicles. Okay, let's scroll down. So why is it even a problem? They say the coin has two sides. The first issue comes from the main feature of preferential premiums, tier range balance. Starting from mid-tiers, all vehicles have -2 +2 tier range. This means that if you're rolling out in your King Tiger, you could find yourself on top of the list with clumsy Churchills and tiny AMX 12Ts. On the other hand, there are chances to land at the very bottom, facing the mighty IS4s and fearsome T95s. Yeah, well, we know that. The next paragraph is probably the most important thing that WarGaming has released that I have ever read. Let's read it carefully. With preferential Tier 8 premiums, you won't encounter an opponent higher than Tier 9, which should make life easier. Okay, that's true. But the new matchmaker struggles with these machines. Why does it struggle with these? The old matchmaker didn't struggle with these machines, but okay, let's go on. It takes more time and computations for the tool to balance them properly, which extends the queuing time. The old matchmaker didn't extend the queuing time. As a matter of fact, when I roll out in my KV5, I'm immediately in a Tier 9 game with the rest Tier 8s. It doesn't take very long at all. Okay, let's go on. This is what happens next. They have written this. I have not written this. This is what happens next. The matchmaker starts grabbing an excessive number of Tier 9s, Tier 9 tanks to fill up the team rosters for preferential premiums. Let's stop right there. Well, that's the problem. You've written it in black and white for all of us to read right here. Let's read it again. This is what happens next. The matchmaker starts grabbing an excessive number of Tier 9 tanks to fill up team rosters for preferential premiums. Exactly. That's what's happening. I don't want the matchmaker to do that. I want it to sometimes make me top tier. That's the problem with the Tier 8 preferential matchmaking tanks, is they're always in a Tier 9 game. The key word there is excessive number of Tier 9. You've written it in black and white. This is what happens next. The matchmaker starts grabbing an excessive number of Tier 9s. Why is it doing that? That's what's ruining it. To fill up team rosters for preferential premiums, so they become deficient when it comes to forming teams for Tier 10 machines. The matchmaker then looks for something to fill the gaps for Tier 10s, and look who's here. Hello, Tier 8s. Come here, little fellas. What in the world are you even talking about? So you're saying that because I'm getting screwed with my preferential matchmaking tank, with the matchmaker immediately grabbing Tier 9s to put me in a game with, because I'm always bottom tier with my preferential matchmaking tank, there's not enough Tier 9s for Tier 10 games, so the Tier 8 non-preferential matchmaking tanks also get screwed. That's what you're trying to say? You have devised a matchmaker that takes 3 Tier 10s, 5 Tier 9s, and the rest Tier 8s. That's how you designed it to work. It has nothing to do with preferential matchmaking tanks stealing all the Tier 9s. What are you even talking about? When I hit play in my regular Tier 8s, guess what happens next? The matchmaker looks for 3 Tier 10s and 5 Tier 9s for me to play against. Shouldn't you just condense this a whole paragraph and just say the matchmaker sucks? Okay, I promise not to get myself worked up into a frenzy here. Let's continue with the next paragraph. The second issue is preferential premiums combat specs. They always were lower than what the counterparts had for the sake of balance. Okay, that's true. After 9.18 came out with the 357 distribution rule and its derivatives, preferential premiums would often fight against vehicles of the same tier or higher, which means they find themselves in an uneven playing field. Exactly. Imagine you're coming out in your KV5 and the vast majority of cases, you're somewhere in the middle up against full stack IS3s, Ferdinands, Pershings, and other top Tier 8 folks, and a couple of Tier 9s thrown in the equation, and your chances of surviving aren't that pretty. Exactly. You're right. Well, then why is the matchmaker immediately looking for tier 9 tanks to put me in a tier 8-9 game? That's the whole problem. Okay, let's move on here. We're now into fixing both these issues, and this is how we want to do it. All right, let's scroll up so I can read. Okay, matchmaker, reduce the queuing time, ease calculations. All right, well, I've never had a problem with queuing times. Specs, turn preferential premium tanks into well-rounded competitive machines. Okay, let's keep going here. How come it took so long? It's the price you might pay for an error. There's a lot of preferential tanks in battle as we speak, and so we'll have to process a multitude of options before settling on a happy medium. Initially, we took two different directions or approaches. The global direction would tweak the work of the balancer, the matchmaker, so that preferential premiums have a higher chance of getting into the top 3 of the 357 list. A higher chance of getting into the top, well, they almost never get into the top 3 now, because as they said in the previous paragraph, the matchmaker immediately looks for tier 9s to put them in. Okay, so would give them a higher chance of being in the top 3 of the 357 list. Ideally, this solution would be beneficial for these machines. Yes, it would. With no need for substantial edits to their specs. Exactly. The reality, however, hit us in the face during several internal tests and simulations, which indicated minor improvements, meaning you were top tier rather than bottom tier. That's a minor improvement, countered by an overall decline in matchmaking performance. I don't even know what that means. But it left them no choice than to abandon this approach. Of course. The local direction was to opt for an individual approach to every model, bringing the changes they need and thus reducing the negative impact made by preferential premiums on the matchmaker. Oh, wait a minute. I think you got that backwards. I thought it was the matchmaker that brought negative impact on the preferential premiums. So the problem is not the matchmaker. The problem is the preferential premiums that are ruining the matchmaker. The tank that I bought 3 years ago for $60. That tank is the problem. It's ruining the matchmaker. After a series of tests, this proved to be the go-to solution, but caused another problem. Some of the current preferential premiums are so old in terms of combat characteristics that simply dragging slider boxes with their specs won't help. It turned out that some vehicles require major revisions, while we also want to maintain the same characters they have now. All right, we don't want to turn an assault tank into an ambush vehicle. We want to preserve and even emphasize their distinct features. Fair enough. At the same time, we plan to give players the opportunity to decide whether an updated tank is relevant for them. Accordingly, every tanker can exchange a particular machine through the special trade-in option for an exclusive list of tanks not available in the common trade-in. Don't worry, tanks available in the common trade-in are also included. The cost of this kind of exchange will not exceed 2,000 gold. This is what I've coined a Russian refund, which is if you don't like it, you don't get your money back. No, you get a Russian refund. You can give them more money, right, to get something else that 2 years from now will be underpowered sitting in your garage, in which case you could get another Russian refund. Russian marketing genius at its best. Thus, each owner of a preferential premium will have 2 options. Keep their machine after the specs have been improved, or exchange it for another more suitable vehicle with a small surcharge of gold. The pioneer is to be the KV-5, and this is where we get into the changes. Let's look at the changes they're planning on making to the KV-5. A complete overhaul of the gun. The damage per minute goes from 2300 HP up 200 HP. The standard shell penetration goes to 218 millimeters. That's up 51 millimeters from where it is. The damage per shot goes up 30 to 330, and the penetration of the premium shell goes to 243, an increase of 24 millimeters. So this gives it a gun that is, you would say, is competitive compared to all other Tier 8 vehicles. It gets a competitive Tier 8 vehicle gun, which, like most Tier 8 vehicle guns, will struggle to penetrate the heavily armored Tier 10 tanks, which the matchmaker will make you fight. Okay, let's look at the armor. Well, you can read all of those. Basically, everything is buffed so that now even your weak spots are 200 millimeters. Your lower plate is 220 millimeters, which is is certainly a buff from what you had, and it will make tier 6, 7s, and some tier 8s have a hard time penetrating you frontally unless they load premium ammunition. But again, will be easily penetrated by almost every tier 10 tank that you will ever face that can basically just auto-lock on you and shoot you and penetrate. Most tier 10s have a 250, 260. Some of the TDs have almost 300 penetration. And now to balance out these frontal armor buffs, which again will be easily penetrated by tier 10 tanks that you'll face, we need some massive rear and side armor nerfs, just in case you end up top tier 1 out of 10 games. We have to nerf the rear armor. You can read the numbers there so that you can be easily penetrated by, say, a Cromwell that drives behind you in your rear, which is now 95 millimeters of armor, decreased 150 and 50, and the rear of your turret decreased by 60, just to give the tier 6s and 7s that you might face occasionally an easy pen if they flank you. Considering the above improvements, quote-unquote improvements, the KV-5 will become a competitive combat vehicle capable of withstanding any opponent effectively. Other than the Object 268 version 4 and the Mouse and the E100 and the Jagdpanzer E100 and any of the Object tier 9 and 10 what the fucks and any other tier 9 and 10 will easily penetrate. But and the lower tier vehicles that can penetrate from the rear. But it will capable of withstanding any opponent effectively. Moreover, the overhauled vehicle will be able to oppose tier 10 vehicles. Yes, of course it will. The cost of these improvements, because it will always be in a tier 10 game, won't it? That's the whole fucking point. The cost of these improvements is the standard range of battles. No preferential matchmaking for you. No fun for you. That will no longer be needed. With the new technical characteristics, new challenges, and new opportunities for the US. New opportunities to sit in my garage and never come out because every tier 8 tank now sucks because it's in the tier 10 game almost every single game because that's what the matchmaker does. And guys, I'm not going to make this a full-on raging rant. And guys, you know me. I like to have fun. I love this game. I play this game. I make videos about this game. If you're watching, you probably love this game. It's a great game. And it is just a game. And I understand that WarGaming is a company. And they provide the game. And we play. We have fun and they make money. And that's fine. And I bought a KV-5 because I wanted to have fun. And I had fun in my KV-5 for a long time. So let me just give you my no bullshit reaction without going off on a tangent and screaming and yelling. Let's treat this one seriously and give you my no bullshit opinion. And this is what it is. In the first place, I'm happy that WarGaming admits and is trying to do something about the preferential matchmaking tanks. They agree that there's a problem. And the problem is that you're always bottom tier. They write it on their own webpage in black and white. They say what happens next. The matchmaker looks for tier 9s, an excessive number of tier 9s. That's what they say. It looks for an excessive numbers of tier 9s for you to play with. So they realize that's a problem because a tier 8 preferential matchmaking tank in a tier 9 game is bottom tier. And if I play 100 games in my KV-5 now, I will be bottom tier, quote-unquote bottom tier for that tank 90, 95 times. And I will be middle tier or top tier 4 or 5 times. And it's no fun, and it sucks, and it's sitting in my garage. So I'm glad they realize there's a problem. So the solution to basically what they're saying, and I'm going to summarize it, is we're going to make the gun better, so that it's a tier 8 gun like most of the other tier 8s. And then we're going to buff your armor just enough so that the tier 10s and 9s that you will fight will easily penetrate you. Because, I mean, 220 millimeters of armor versus tier 10s is nothing, right? They're going to go through you with regular ammo. Tier 9s, most of them will go through you with regular ammo. Some will have to load some heat, like the T-54 330 heat. It's going to have no problem going through your front. The tiers 8s, 7s, and 6s that you face, some of them will have to shoot premium ammo to go through your front. We're going to nerf your sides and rear so that everyone can pen you easily. And we're going to put you in regular matchmaking so that, and what I understand regular matchmaking is for tier 8s, is that you will be in a tier 10 game every freaking game. So that's how we're going to change the tank, so that's what you get. But if you don't like it, we're going to offer you a Russian refund, what I call a Russian refund. And that is, you can pay us more money. You could give us 2,000 gold. Like, if you don't like what you're going to get, you know, if you don't like that you're going to get a new tank that is going to face tier 10s all the time, which is going to be used as an XP pinata for all the tier 10s and easily penetrated from the side and rear by the lower tiers you face. If you don't like that, all right, you don't have to take that. You can get a Russian refund, which means you can give us more money. You can give us up to no more than 2,000 gold and get yourself something else from our list of tier 8s that we have to offer, which we promise 2 years from now, they won't suck and they won't be sitting in your garage gathering dust. We promise. Well, actually, they don't promise that. That's a Russian refund. I coined it right here on this channel. So come on. Like, do you think I'm a fucking moron? Like, holy shit, guys. You did some testing and the matchmaker has trouble queuing up the... Like, I'll tell you what I want. The no bullshit, sticking to the story here. This is what I want. And it's fairly simple. It's not rocket science. What I want with my tier 8 preferential matchmaking tanks is that sometimes I will be bottom tier and have tier 9s and 8s. Sometimes I will be middle tier and I will have all tier 8s. So I will be bottom tier sometimes, middle tier sometimes. And sometimes I want to be top tier and I'll be in a match with 8s, 7s, and 6s. That's all I want. I want to sometimes be bottom tier and get shit on by the tier 10s. Sometimes I want to be middle tier and I can have an average game and fight as hard as I can. And sometimes I want to be fucking top tier. That's all I want. Okay? I just want to be top tier some fucking time. That's all. I don't want to give you more money for a new tank. And I don't want to be in tier 10 games. I did not buy my KV5 so that I could fight tier 10s. The whole reason that everyone bought the preferential matchmaking tanks was because they didn't want to be in tier 10 games. I can be in tier 10 games with all my other tier 8 tanks every time. Just let me be top tier sometimes. Just a few times. Here's a solution. Just program into your matchmaker, okay? You put it in black and white on your webpage where you say, let me read it again. This is what happens next. The matchmaker starts grabbing an excessive number of tier 9 tanks to fill up the team rosters for preferential premiums. That's what you wrote. The matchmaker is grabbing an excessive number of tier 9 tanks to fill up. Okay, that's what it's doing. Well, how about this? How about the matchmaker, it looks and then says, oh, look, Klaus Kellerman's been bottom tier 26 fucking times in a row. Let's not look for some tier 9s to put him in with. Let's look for some tier 8s, 7s, and 6s to put him in with. What about that? Have you ever thought of that? And that's my no bullshit analysis. I just want to be top tier sometimes. That's it. That's all I got. Okay? You know, it's okay. I can handle it. I can fight defenders and scorpions and patriots and whatever object, whatever the fuck you want to add, I can do that. But just make me top tier sometimes. Just, if I can be bottom, middle, and top, why don't I be bottom 1/3 of the time, middle 1/3 of the time, and top 1/3 of the time? What about that? I'd be happy with that. I don't want a Russian refund. I don't want to give you more money for something else. And I don't want to roll out in my KV5 99 out of 100 games in tier 10 games next patch. And I'm sure that all the rest of the preferential mediums, when they're reworked, there'll just be a lot more tier 8 tanks to be bottom tier versus tier 10s. More tier 8 free XP pinatas for all the tier 10s. And, you know, I don't play my tier 8s now, and I don't need more tier 8s that are always in tier 10 games. That's my no bullshit analysis. Let me know what you guys think of the changes, and, you know, after that, the rest of this is pretty anticlimactic, and luckily I skipped ahead, and I played this game with just my preferential matchmaking tanks without any premium ammo, and the game is over. And here's this. I'm a general. I made general. Look, oh, look at this. Arms race is coming. Oh, yeah. You're not kidding about that. The victory. Look at that. Lots of XP. I love this frontline mode. It's given me a chance to actually play some of these preferential matchmaking tanks. Look at this guy. He did great. Holy shit, you had a good game. Stuff like this. Introducing the new mode. There's so many positives. We all love the game. Think really hard before you implement the Russian refund strategy there, WarGaming. I mean, that is not going to go over well, is my no bullshit opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. And, yeah, let me know what you think. I'm all spent. That's it. That's all I got, guys. Like I said, you get the no bullshit here. There's no kiss-assing, no sugar-coating. I just call it like it is, and I'm not trying to just make waves. I'm giving you my honest opinion. It's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Click the subscribe button and share the video, and you know, let's have a discussion. Thanks for watching this one, guys.